Hey guys, welcome back to Spector Creative. Today I want to talk about one of the squids in the room in the toy industry that is having a major effect and not being talked about enough. I'm talking about holdbacks. You know, those cords that you use to keep your drapes from hitting you in the face. Okay, well, no, not those holdbacks. I'm talking about these. When toy companies and content creators don't share information about upcoming content that directly affects toy sales, like, all of the Spider-Mans appearing in the last Spider-Man movie. The question is, was it worth it? For the money that could have been made, should these holdbacks been removed? So let's just real quick recap and talk about what holdbacks are. So Rey being a Jedi, right, and wielding a lightsaber, this is something that was not to be talked about, right? It was, again, like the squid in the room, right? You don't talk about it. When Disney bought Star Wars, and this is not a hidden fact or anything, they had a big agenda. I mean, anyone has an agenda when you're spending billions of dollars. And yeah, I know Disney has had issues and agenda issues, but so Star Wars has traditionally been a boys' property, right? I mean, there's nothing. It's wonderful when girls play with it too, but if you were going to just bucket it in a large bin, you would call it a boys' property. Well, when Disney acquired Star Wars, they did so for two main reasons. Not to make more boys content, but because they thought there were two additional avenues of revenue. Girls, they could get more girls into the property, and the Chinese market, because that's where most box office is made these days. Well, the problem is, Star Wars really never had a fandom in Asia. And the issue with all of the female characters being introduced is that, again, it is a boys' property because it is an aggressive, action-based property which appeals to boys because their brains function differently. Boys and girls, men and women, have completely different brains. It's why girls play with nurturing play and boys have aggressive play. And now, Disney did succeed in having an amazing female character, but of course the one that they created that actually got a fandom, they fired. So yeah, that's why it drives me crazy with that whole agenda. And, you can see that in Rey. And her reveal as a Jedi at the end of Episode 7 was supposed to be the emotional moment that brought all the females into the franchise. They protected this so much that Hasbro, Lucasfilm, Disney actually sued fans who bought this Rey figure legally at Walmart, but before they wanted people to see it. And they made the fan take it down. And I mean, that's ridiculous. Because when you hold back information, and another great example is what happened with Spider-Man No Way Home, what you're doing is you're giving the audience a moment, a gasp in the theaters. But the effect you're having long-term on merchandise and license opportunities, I believe, is much, much bigger. And that's what I want to go into because, yeah, I get it. All the, Tobey Maguire, Garfield, they were under, non-disclosures that I think in their contract, they actually had to deny being in this film. And when the Spider-Man film came out, J. Jonah Jameson was the only kind of new movie character. I mean, we got two Spider-Mans, but yeah, you didn't get any of the villains or any of the other Spider-Mans because they were held back and not shown, or toy companies didn't have the rights to do them until 2 years later. So now, 2 years after the movie, you can go out and you can buy the villains from the movie, the quote-unquote surprise villains. But when the movie was in theaters, when kids were looking to buy product and engage in play, these characters were nowhere to be found. So this is obviously done on purpose. And it really is filmmakers versus merchandise, toy makers, and retail. So when you're trying to surprise the audience, this doesn't have to be by not including major heroes and villains. I understand that as a filmmaker, you want to be able to, surprise and shock the audience. And that's great. But that's momentary. I mean, after the surprise and shock, they're going to go back to, watching that film in the dark. I think the current, classic example of, miss the boat is Baby Yoda. But I actually don't see this one as much of an offender as things like the holdback on the Garfield and Maguire Spider-Man figures or Rey being a Jedi, because Baby Yoda was never anything we expected or, needed to be. Versus if you look at a surprise from the 80s, right? Darth Vader saying, Luke, I am your father. Sorry, spoiler alert for a 45-year-old movie. They didn't hold back a character. They just held back a twist. And that's the difference. When the Episode 7 product came out, it was very confusing, both for retailers, for toy companies, and for customers. Because nobody knew who the main character was. Was it Finn? Was it Poe? Was it Rey? Was it Kylo? Was it BB-8? And yeah, we all had fun, but we were buying things that we didn't know much about. And the twist, Rey being a Jedi wasn't even on any of the promotional material. Striking while the iron is hot is so important because kids have a very limited attention span, especially today with all them TikToks and Kardashians and all that stuff. You can have your moments. Absolutely. There are some times when it completely works to keep something under wraps. But when you have the main heroes and main characters from a movie not being released, look at Star Wars box office, $4 billion, compared to toys at $12 billion. You'd think you'd want to put your information where the money is. There's way more money to be had by being truthful and honest about your toys. If you want little girls picking up a lightsaber, if Rey had been promoted as a female Jedi from day one, ironically, I think Disney would have succeeded and Rey would have been more popular. A lot of the kind of anti-Rey feeling, besides, some of the character plot twists in episode 8 and 9, is because of the holdbacks. Having that momentary reaction, that 1 second versus a lifetime of play, balance needs to be found. And I think, looking at Hasbro's stock and what's going on with Disney, it's time that a lot of toy companies and content creators started rethinking the relationship between holdbacks and toy time. I hope this video is an interesting look at why holdbacks are created and why they don't really always work. Sometimes, but, there's only so many Darth Vader moments you can have. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. It's the best way to support this channel, and I appreciate it. All right, I'll see you guys next time.